Love music. Live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David McKinnon on Rock Sport Radio.
OK, talking football for this Thursday night is Europa League action. Bad news if you're a Rangers fan, although you probably know that, you probably won't. On BT Sport, or possibly listen to the commentary elsewhere. I hope you're not, but I can understand if you are. And if you are, you're not hearing a word I'm saying anyway, so it makes no damn difference. But for Rangers fans who are listening to us tonight, 1-0 to Villarreal after 40 seconds. We're broadcasting live across central Scotland, as we always do, Monday to Friday between 6 and 8 with Talking Football. David McKinnon in with me tonight. You can listen to us on DAB Digital Radio, online and via your smartphone, online at rocksportradio.co.uk. Smartphone, if you have an iPhone, you can use the TuneIn app. If you have an Android phone, you can use the TuneIn or Radiogram app. And if you want to take part in the programme, 0333 9442. You can also tweet us at RocksportDAB. Not a good start for Rangers, Davy.
No, it wasn't a good start for me, Bill. I came in here, no headphones or anything like that. It's do it yourself. I don't know what's happening. It's standards are going down. But you're right, it's a bad start, particularly...
I must speak to the managing director and see what he can do about it.
Get me sorted. But... It is a bad start because one thing that you want to do, particularly away from home, is set yourself out properly and take the heat literally out of the game. But obviously Rangers have lost a goal very, very early on. On
the plus side, if you're going to lose a goal, you've got plenty of time to get it back. Yeah,
you're right, Bill. And as I was saying, the heat's there as well. It's 28 degrees, 30 degrees, so it's going to be difficult playing in those conditions. But you're right, and I think the big thing, because it's a league set up, the away goals and so forth, and the goals, you actually go and try and win the game first and foremost. So it gives Rangers a good opportunity to just go out, attack them, because I think Rangers, when they attack teams, that's when they're at their best. I was actually thinking about the game when I came in, Bill, and the fact that I hope Rangers don't go away from home as they did when they played Celtic and sat in, because that gives opportunities to teams to come at you, and obviously early on they've lost a goal. So I just think that Rangers now, maybe it changes their mentality. Instead of maybe sitting in and absorbing the pressure early on, I think they will now go out and try and win it. So it could be a lot of goals in this.
Do you know the good thing as well, Davey, which I think, and a lot of people, I'll see where I'm coming from, a lot of people won't, but you see, when you get to a certain point in the game, if you're a goal down, I think you should go for that goal, that away goal particularly. And the reason being is that if you're going to go down 1-0, it makes no difference to go down 2-0, because you only lose the 3 points. That's where we are with this now. We're at the group stages.
Yeah, that's the best thing that they can do in this, Bill, because it's about points for winning. And there's no sense, as you said, going for a 1-0. It's actually just going out and try to get the points. So I think that this will open the game up, certainly. And Rangers, I think they're a very, very good attacking team. Obviously up front, Lafferty, I think, is leading the line, so I think he's very good at that. He's done it well for Hearts. I think particularly Hearts played him in that role last season, and I thought he impressed in every game that I saw him. And he's a good foil for players to get round about him from midfield, so I think that's probably a good formation for Rangers. So I just hope Rangers now basically dust themselves down. They've lost a goal, so let's just go out and attack and try and get a few goals back.
I mean, I'm just thinking about this from the point of view of Steven Gerrard. It's really important that his guys now respond in the right way and don't sit and dwell on this one. It's happened, it's gone, it's not the way you wanted to start the game, but there's nothing you can do about it now. You can't change what's happened. You can only change what will happen as the game goes on.
No, you're right, Bill. And I think the thing is that, Villarreal have not had a good start to the season. What have they? They've won one. lost 2, drawn 1, and just 2 goals that they've scored. So it's not been a good start for them, and I think that's reflected in the attendance. I don't think there'll be a big crowd there, and that's probably better in Rangers' favour, because generally if you've got a partisan home crowd shouting from every corner, then it becomes difficult because you sometimes get caught up in the crowd. But Rangers supporters will be there, will making a bigger noise, I would imagine, the home supporters. So the stadium is not the place that it used to be, so I think that's probably good in Rangers' favour. They've got some good players in the side, Rangers, so I think that I think one thing I would say, Bill, is that I hope it's not the kiss of death, but I believe that there'll be a lot of goals in this game.
I haven't seen the teams and the starting lineup for Rangers.
Yep.
I can see Barisic there, I can see Katic there. I read earlier on that Lafferty was going to start.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see. I can see Lafferty, he has started.
Yeah, well, I've got the team here, Bill. It's McGregor, Tavernier, Worrell, Goldson, Barisic, Koulibaly, Halliday, Arfield, Candias, Kent and Lafferty. So, really the threat, Kent looks...
So has Worrell taken over from Katic?
Yeah, it looks like that.
Right, okay, so it wasn't Katic that I saw.
No, I think he is. Katic is on the bench, and I think by all accounts, just looking to see what's happened, I think it was a kind of mix-up between Worrell and Goldson. That bad defending, but a smashing finish by all accounts. So that combination, you see where that takes us. But I think that with Lafferty, Kent is always a player that I think is got something special as well.
Let me ask you a question, because you've just said it was a mix-up between Goldson and Worrell. Of course, this, as far as I'm aware, is their first competitive game. It's in Europe, in the group stages of the Europa League. Would you have taken the chance when he's already got that relationship with Katic and it stood them in good stead?
I wouldn't take the chance, but we don't know what the circumstances surround it. So you would imagine Katic has always been a player for me that is, he should be the first choice along with Goldson at the back. Maybe he's carrying an injury, I don't know, but certainly that would be a strange one if they've left him out purely on tactical reasons. Because
did you say Koulibaly was playing? Because I missed
Koulibaly's
that.
playing,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
Koulibaly's playing. So they look as if they're strong in the midfield. Halliday and Arfield probably sitting in the middle. Candias, I would imagine, going the right. Koulibaly, and coming up front, and then with Lafferty with maybe Kent playing sort of off him a wee bit. So when you actually look at it, I think it's a side that he's put out to actually defend rather than attack. Right.
Well, BT Sport having problems with the pictures at the minute, from what I can see.
Maybe we'll get people listening in there.
Listen, let's talk to our first guest tonight. Our first guest has been at the highest level in Scottish football and is now looking to possibly manage in our game, and that's Massimo Donati. Massimo, good evening and welcome to the show. Let me ask you, you've looked now at a couple of jobs in terms of management in Scottish football. Why do you want to stay in Scotland and go into management?
Hi, good evening. First of all, nothing. I've just finished to play football, and football is my life, and it's a couple of years I'm always thinking about my future and thinking, the managerial career is perfect for me because, you're always in the pitch. Yes, you're not playing, but you're still in a club, you're still in a squad, and you can have a great result as well, It's different result than when you're playing football, but it's still a good opportunity to stay on the pitch, and I want to start here in Scotland because I like the life here. I like the football as well, and I think I can give some of my ideas in this football. That's why I want to start here.
Fairly comprehensive answer and a good one. Let me ask you about Raith Rovers, which is the latest job that you're being associated with. What about Raith Rovers? How much do you know about them, and what do you think you might bring to that job as a manager?
Raith Rovers are a team. The last season did very well for all season, but at the end of the season they lose important games and they stay in the League One. But I know they are a club. They want to go up, in the bigger levels. Then they are organized. They have got a good team. They start well this season. Then I'm thinking maybe for me it's an opportunity, but I still waiting news from them, because it's not easy for a club now give me a chance for a manager career, because I never had a team, but I've got clearly the ideas in my mind what I have to do, what I want to do in a club. Then I'm still waiting, and hopefully some jobs come early.
Massimo, it's David McKinnon here from, I knew you from Hamilton. Buonasera.
Yep. Buonasera.
Come stai la famiglia?
I answer in English, okay? Family is really happy here. Kids really enjoy, stay here in Scotland. They have got a lot of friends now. They speak English much better than me. Sorry, they speak Scottish much better than me. Then we are all good here, enjoy the life. Then the only problem, I want to work and fun.
Yeah, I saw you, Massimo, obviously with the young players at Hamilton, and one of the things that makes managers successful is respect, and you certainly had the respect of the players in the club, and going to a club like Raith Rovers, the players would obviously respect you. I know that you want to be a manager. You went to St Mirren for no money, but to learn, to help with the coaching. It's obviously something that you want to give 100% to all the time.
Yeah, I think first the respect is important in life, in football, and in everything you do. Then when I was a coach with the guys at Hamilton, everybody had a respect on me. Then was important, but I respect the guys as well, because the roles are important. In St Mirren I learned as well a lot from the manager, from Ross, and he was a very good manager. But important for a manager is take of the best of every player. I think the hard job for a manager is every player have to give you 100% in training and games as well. Because if you don't train well in the week, on Saturday, on Sunday when it's a game, you play like when you're training. Then it's so important. They train hard. They give you 100% in 1 hour and a half training, and when they are on the pitch for the game, they do the same.
I know as well from your time at Hamilton, you're a person who thinks about the game tactically. You must, when you come, obviously play at the high level in Europe and in Italy, then you've obviously played at high level with Celtic. Do you find it difficult sometimes to think about how the teams will be playing at a lower level, to set them out? Is it clear that exactly how you believe that you would set a team out for the best effect?
Yeah, I exactly know what I want and what I want to do. The only problem I had in Hamilton, the whole academy have to play with a 4-3-3,
yep.
And I was not really happy for that, because for me a team had to play always with 2 strikers. That is so important for my idea of football. Then for me, first 2 strikers has to be on the pitch. Second, goalkeeper has to be good with the ball as well, not just save goals. Then I've got clear ideas what I have to do. Now just I wait the opportunity to show what I can do in football.
Massimo, let me ask you about the Raith Rovers job. What is it specifically that appeals to you about that particular club? And is it a level that you think is a good level to go into management?
I don't know if it's the right level or not. I just I'm sure, for bigger levels is difficult. Some clubs give me the opportunity because I already said I never had this job. Then it's difficult, send me and give me a managerial job just now because I'm new, for them in this job, and I understand that. Then I think maybe a club like Raith Rovers can't believe in me and what I can do. I know it is a club they have to win this season, but I'm excited to do that because when you are in a team and got a target to win the league is so important, and I hope I can do this for them.
Do you think it's been a help being at a club like Hamilton, where resources are fairly limited? You don't have a big budget, you can't spend a lot of money on players, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to Hamilton, but it seems to me that it might be a big help being at a club like Hamilton for as long as you were.
Well, I think the money you spend for the team are important, but are more important the spirit they've got, the guys, the organization you give the team. If you've got players with not a lot of qualities, but they give you 100% always, and you give him the team a good organization, they can do well as well.
You will no doubt, Massimo, be asked, because you're a top player, if you're still fit to play. Is this just solely a manager's job? You won't be tempted to be a player manager?
No, time for play is
That's what happens.
done. Then I've got 37 years old. I ran a lot in my career. Then now, if I have just to think about running, I'm sick then.
It's all that pasta from Massimo's restaurant.
No, I don't eat pasta as well. Me, always salad, chicken, fish, something like that. That's it.
Good. No, I know you, and the fact that I know you and I know the type of person you are, I think it would be good for a team like Raith Rovers to take the chance, as you say, with you, because they certainly have got someone who knows the game and knows how to organise. So, hopefully that they will see that in you.
Yeah, hopefully, yes. Repeat myself. I'm looking forward for that because, I want to show all my best, all I can do in football. And if it's not Raith Rovers now, I wait. But is that what I've got in my mind to do? And if I have to start next week, perfect. But if not, I'm still focused in that job, and I wait my opportunity.
I was just going to say, I think I'm right in saying that Raith Rovers have put down an artificial pitch this season as well, so that's something that you'll be used to, and you'll be able to get the players to get the best out of them playing on this new artificial surface.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of artificial surface. I'm not a fan of that because when I played on that, in Hamilton 2 years, I had always problems, on the back, on the ankles, on the knees. It's not like play in the normal pitch. But if it's good artificial, then it's good the same.
And when are you expecting to know if you manage to take the job at Raith Rovers? What's the process? Where are we in the process of that?
Oh, the process is straight away say the roles. They are in the dressing room, because I said that when we started, the respect for the people work there. For the manager, for the coaches, for everyone, first is important for me that the players are good guys as well. Second one, and try to explain as possible my idea of football, because I like play football on the ground, no long balls, fight is important in football, but for me, the ball has to run a lot. No, the players as well, but the ball has to run a lot. Change side to side. I have to explain my idea of football, the movement they have to do, the players, and a lot of things.
Okay, well, good luck with everything.
Well done.
And thank you for coming on and talking to us tonight. Thanks again.
Right, thank you very much, and have a good night.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Massimo Donati there, talking about the prospect of being the possible manager of Raith Rovers.
Do you know something, Bill? It's difficult, when you're speaking to someone that you know very well.
Yeah.
I tell you, he is an unbelievable thinker about the game and creates unbelievable standards. What he did in the dressing room at Hamilton was actually raise the standards, because people were looking at him at 35 when he came to the club, and not an ounce of fat on him.
I actually, funnily enough, I bumped into him on the staircase at Hamilton one day.
So great standards first and foremost. He's played at high level, but he's one of these guys that is not affected by playing at high level. He's very down to earth. He knows how to set teams out, and no disrespect to how Hamilton play, he used to get frustrated. I knew that he get frustrated because he believes in playing two up front and believes in various things. So I think if Raith Rovers want something out of left field and want someone that they I think will deliver for them, I think there's no better than Massimo Donati.
Well, let me ask you a question, and give me an honest answer, despite the fact that you know him extremely well. And the question is very simply this: on a number of occasions we talk about managers who go to clubs and they try and play a level of football and a style of football, which is what they believe in and it's what they want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes they don't quite appreciate that the quality of player that they have isn't capable of playing that level of football or that type of football.
No, I agree with you. That's a difficulty.
Would that be a problem for Massimo Donati?
I don't think so. Because I think that it's all about how he sets a team out, and they want them. He wants players to play the ball, and there will be players that will find that difficult because they want to just lump it forward. But it's given them the confidence and training, and what he's very good at. I've saw him taking some training a couple of times, and what he does is these short, sharp things where people are tight and they're getting the ball quickly. They have to move it. So he knows. He knows the game, and he knows exactly how to set teams out. So I don't know. I mean, I hope for him that at least Raith Rovers listen to him and listen to what his vision is, and then it'll be down to the directors to decide whether they want to do that or whether they decide to get someone that's tried and trusted. I know that Danny Lennon is a guy that they're looking at.
Danny, I'm told, has distanced himself from the job.
Danny's a very good manager, as you know.
And of course, a bit of a hero at Raith Rovers.
He
is,
as well.
And
Danny's a good fit for that. But if he's distanced himself, then that is fair enough. But I just I like that clubs look at the type of club they are and who they will bring in. I hope they don't, with due respect to some of the people that that apply for the jobs, I hope they don't just take an easy options, because sometimes that's not the option that the fans want. The fans would embrace somebody like Massimo, I believe.
All right, Davey, we'll see how that one goes and follow it with interest. Talking of Danny Lennon, we'll be talking to him a wee bit later on as why he distanced himself from the Raith Rovers job. Could it be because they're doing so well at Clyde at the moment, sitting third in League 2, 4 wins from 6. We'll speak to Danny a wee bit later on. We're also going to speak to Matt Ryan, who's from blogger of Backpass, the Backpass Rule, and talking about Celtic and the game at Rosenborg, or the game they've got against Rosenborg tonight at Celtic Park. Rangers still a goal down. Villarreal seem to have had most of the ball, but Rangers have been coming back into the game a wee bit, but obviously leaving a lot of space at the back for them to move in, purely because they have to try and get that away goal, I would think, because they want a point at least The gateway goal doesn't count, does it? Because it's a damn group stages. Like I'm talking about
no,
away
it doesn't.
goals.
But
let me just dig myself into that hole. But what will happen is they'll come away with a point and possibly even 3 points. So they do have to go for it.
Yeah, it's they have to go for it, and I think they've now by all accounts just absorbing a wee bit of pressure, because I think Villarreal are the team in the ascendancy.
I'm just watching it, and they do have a lot of the ball, Villarreal, but you would expect that, to be honest, with them being at home. Rangers do on occasions look a wee bit open and a wee bit exposed at the back, so they risk giving away that second goal, but they do have to try and get a goal themselves. So that's one of the things that happens when you're in that position.
Yeah, well, I'll pose a question, Bill. I think that Steven Gerrard has amassed a really good squad. I think he's brought players in that have boosted the players, boosted the team, boosted their chances. I don't know whether their confidence that they should have is reflective in how they set themselves out. And I'm saying that because I met Willie Henderson, the Rangers legend in Glasgow, and he said to me, "What do you think?" It was after the Rangers-Celtic game. And I said to him, "Willie, I said, you've played in a lot of Old Firm games. I have. And what you do in Old Firm games, it's attack from both sides.
Tora.
Yep. From start to finish. You attack, they attack, and then it's a dice to see exactly what the decision is."
Yeah.
And I said to him, I've not seen a Rangers team go to Parkhead and defend as deeply as Rangers did early on in the game, and I think that went against them. And I think that may have been the confidence that maybe Steven Gerrard says, we don't want to go and maybe be beaten 3 or 4-0. We want to go and make it tight. But I believe that Rangers are good enough to go and attack teams, and it might be the same case tonight, that they've set themselves out with not wanting to lose rather than going and winning.
Well, I've just looked at his face and he doesn't look particularly happy. I think he wants them to attack a bit more. It looks as if he's a wee bit disgruntled at the minute. We'll keep you in touch with that. We'll look ahead very shortly to the Celtic game as well. You're listening to Rock Sport. This is Talking Football with Bill Young and David McKinnon for this Thursday night.
Love music, live sport. Talking Football with Bill Young and David McKinnon on Rock Sport Radio.
Okay, Thursday night, we're talking football, Europa League action. We've already reflected Rangers a goal down after 40 seconds against Villarreal in Spain. Celtic at home tonight to Rosenborg. They're not unfamiliar with each other, David. As I say, we're going to hear from our next guest shortly, and they'll be talking about and previewing that game with us. What's your own thoughts on this one?
Well, like Rangers, sort of playing against Villarreal, Celtic lost an early goal against Rosenborg at home, and I think it looked for a while as if they would toil, but they came back and won 3-1 and did particularly well. So I think that Rosenborg will come here, they'll have known a lot more about Celtic than they did in the first leg, and it'll be interesting how they come. As you say, this is a league, Bill, and it's all about amassing points, and it'll be interesting whether they come and think they can maybe just sit in and maybe get a draw, maybe get something on the on the break. But for Celtic, I think it's a big game for them. There's a lot of things coming out of Parkhead that surprised me, and I heard Brendan Rodgers saying that they deserve to be in the Europa League and not the Champions League, and that's a strange thing to say.
But it's true.
It's true, but it's a strange thing for a manager to say.
Yeah, but
it's an honest thing.
Brendan Rodgers is an honest guy, and he'll say it as it is, and I think, he'll use that more as a... what would I call it? A motivator than anything else. So, I like when managers do that. I like when Steven Gerrard, after the 4-0 win against Dundee, came out and said, well, I don't think we played particularly well for long spells of the game. We got a result that kind of flattered us a little bit, and we deserved the result. But, were we playing at our best or as well as we should have or could have played? No, we weren't. Yep. And so I kind of quite like that. Anyway, let's bring in our next guest, Matt Ryan, blogger at Backpass Rule, Cronball and Modern Fitba. Matt, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Listen, Rosenborg unbeaten in 11 games since losing to Celtic, but they are without a couple of key players tonight.
Yeah, so one of their more talented attacking midfielders, Pal Andre Hieland, has been out for pretty much all of September and into August. So he'll be a big miss for Rosenborg tonight. And also, of course, Nicholas Bentner in some legal trouble. So it doesn't seem like he'll be featuring tonight. He didn't feature in their 3-2 win against Vålerenga on. So they're a little short-handed, but they still have plenty of talent to threaten Celtic.
Rosenborg are quite a strange team. They have a very good pedigree in European championships. They always seem to qualify. But what happens is that they kind of have runs one year, disappear for a couple of years, not getting past the qualifying stages, and then they come back. It's very cyclical a little bit with Rosenborg, if that makes any sense. Obviously, we're in a situation where both Celtic and Rosenborg find themselves in the Europa League this season. In real terms, are they good enough to play European football at this level this season?
This was probably about their level. After they were dropped out of the Champions League qualifying with Celtic, they got a bit of a fortunate draw. Their next opponent was, of course, in Ireland, which is probably one of the easier draws. So they're about good enough. They're a pretty good comparison to Celtic in the sense that they're a big fish in a small pond. It's pretty standard that they're going to win the league each year, although they've kind of had Brann this year challenge them for the title. But they're pretty much always going to be up for the title. So like Celtic, they kind of need to figure out how they're going to take that next step in terms of getting past just winning the league every year, maybe qualifying for the Europa League group stages every couple of years, maybe getting into the Champions League group stages, even less frequent than that. They really haven't figured out kind of what Brendan Rodgers did the last 2 years and Celtic did, how to make that next step to get to the Champions League group stages. I think that a lot of it has to come down to their recruitment. They buy typically a lot of players around Scandinavia, a lot of players from the other teams in Norway, the best players, and it really just hasn't worked out. So I think they kind of need to expand their horizons in terms of scouting, in terms of recruitment, and that'll help them get to the next step that teams like Celtic and along that level that are maybe the biggest club in their country, but are not as big as maybe a team in the EPL or something like that.
Matt, it's David McKinnon here. I've looked at your blog, The Back Pass Rule. It's a lot of statistics in it, which is great. I love statistics. But, I was just wondering if you obviously know Rosenborg, do you think that because it's a league situation now instead of a knockout, that they'll come to maybe defend at Parkhead rather than in the previous game they had to win over two legs?
Yeah, I think they'll definitely sit back. They're going to play the same, probably 4-3-3 that they typically play each match they play. But they're definitely going to sit back. They're going to try and stay organized. They're going to catch on the counter. Their fullbacks in particular are pretty talented going forward. Berger Mjøling is good. He's the one who actually scored at Celtic Park in the Champions League qualifier, and I think he played well in that match, defending as well. The other fullback, Sigurd Egan Hidenstad, is pretty good in attack too, but I think Sinclair and Kieran Tierney exposed him pretty well, so I'm not sure if he's going to try to go forward or if he's going to try to stay back and keep those two in bay or whoever else is playing on that side with Celtic. But yes, they're definitely going to try and sit back at least tonight. They're going to try and counter Celtic. And then I think something they're really good at is getting goals off set pieces. On their match on Sunday, they scored all three coming off of set pieces. As you said, we got a lot of stats at the back pass rule and Kronball. So we have that 14.3% of all of their shots come from set pieces, which is the third highest in lead fearing. So they're going to try and sit back. They're going to try and not concede and maybe try and make a goal on set-piece opportunity.
One of the things that Celtic have been poor at this season, by and large, in Europe is defending against set pieces, and I'm sure Rosenberg and Ronnie Coolins has probably looked at that and kind of isolated that. So if they're particularly strong, oh, hang on, we've missed Matt. He's dropped off the face of the earth there. We'll try and get him back. I don't know what happened with that one, but we'll try and get Matt back and talk to him and continue from there. But that's a good point, isn't it? The fact that they're strong from set pieces and Celtic are pretty weak from set pieces, by and large, for such a big defence. And we've seen it a couple of times already this season. It could be something that Rosenberg try and exploit, get in areas where they can. And we've got Matt back. Matt, sorry, I don't know how much you heard of that, but what I was saying was Celtic have been criticised for their back four, especially at set pieces in Europe for this season. If Rosenberg are good at them, I'm assuming that the manager has pointed this out to his team, and they're going to try and get in areas where they can maybe, win those free kicks and exploit them.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a tactic that Rosenberg will definitely look to exploit today. Interim manager Ronnie Coolin, he's really settled Rosenberg down. He was appointed right before the Celtic match in the Champions League qualifiers. So yeah, with their abilities at set pieces, I think Coolin will definitely try and make sure that they're getting into areas that can get them dangerous set pieces.
Sorry, go on, David.
No, I was just going to say to Matt, as far as, let's say, set pieces are concerned, obviously, looking through the team, who is the person that you think is the best dead ball specialist in Rosenberg that will step up and maybe try and get a goal from a set piece?
So I think Jonathan Levi is pretty good on the ball. He was the previously mentioned injured winger. He was pretty good, but obviously he'll probably miss today. In terms of being good in the air, they signed striker Izan Jabali from Elfsborg in Sweden, and he actually scored the winning goal off the corner on Sunday against Vålerenga, and it was really a great goal. It was off corner. He volleyed the ball, but he's also pretty good in the air. He's actually scored 3 goals and assists since he came over in August for Rosenberg, so I think he's going to be one of the dangerous guys to mark in the air. And the other one is striker Alexander Soderlund, who's pretty good in the air, but he actually has not scored since May in the league, but he's always dangerous in the air. He's always creating good opportunities when he is on the ball, and some people think Celtic are going to need to mark to make sure that they don't get exposed on those set-piece opportunities.
Matt, Coolin, of course, as you highlighted, took over just before, and there was quite a furore and a bit of a backlash with kind of protest with some players.
Yeah.
It seemed to be 50-50 as to whether some players were pleased to see the other manager go or pleased to see Coolin come in. Let me ask you now how that's all settled down. I mean, obviously it's not affected and it's kind of put behind them if they've won 11 games since losing to Celtic. But I was just wondering if there's been any major changes in the playing staff to kind of root out any insurrection.
Well, I think the best cure for any insurrection is winning. And as you said, they've done that. So there definitely was a lot of players that did not want to go cool, and they really just didn't see their other manager sacked. But he's kind of settled things down. They've been successful, and any talk of kind of insurrection has really settled down since they've been on this good streak.
I would agree. I think that you've quite clearly said that there's players in the Rosenberg side that can actually give Celtic harm at set pieces, maybe from corners. Christopher Ayer looks to be a doubt tonight. He's got a virus. So Celtic at centre back, have problems. It looks as if they hope to bring back Simunovic, but he's also sidelines with a knee injury. So I think that Celtic, when you look at the centre backs, Jack Henry's a player who plays sometimes, to the top of his game and sometimes not. He's inconsistent. So is there any word coming out of the camp from Rosenberg that see that as an area that they will try and exploit?
Well, I think that they definitely have the players to exploit the center backs for Celtic. So they're very young for the Celtic center backs. So there's Alexander Sørloth, who I mentioned earlier, is an experienced physical striker. You know, he's definitely going to get in the face of whether it's Simunovic or if Ajer is fit or Jack Henry, whoever's healthy, whoever's ever started back there. Jabali is another striker that's pretty physical. He's good at, laying the ball on the outside of the box and taking it in and finishing. So they definitely have the type of strikers that could give Celtic trouble. The only problem is that Sørloth is not in great form right now. We don't know. Bender, if he does play, he's another type of guy that could be physical and give Celtic problems. It's just with his legal problems, it doesn't seem like he's probably going to play tonight.
I've never heard the legal problems. What is the legal problem, if you could maybe let us know?
Sure. Yeah, so when during the international break, and it's a bit controversial what exactly happened, but the long story short is he broke the jaw of a cab driver, and he's obviously, Nicholas Bender obviously has previous with other cab drivers, but there's some stories that the cab driver was being abusive to his partner, and he was defending her, but Rosenberg had to release a statement, admonishing him, and he released a statement apologizing. So it's still kind of up in the air what's going to happen to him, but it's definitely been a distraction for him and for Rosenberg.
Wouldn't it be easier just for him to get the bus?
Well, you'd think with all the trouble that he's had with cab drivers, from now on, he's definitely going to take the bus.
Well, Jerry Collins, who is on the programme on a Tuesday, he's got a taxi, so we'll maybe get him to pick him up after the game.
Yeah, that definitely help him out.
One of the things I was going to ask you is because we talk about clubs, and Russian clubs particularly, and I know that doesn't apply to Rosenborg, but Russian clubs particularly don't travel well. They don't like to play away from home. I wondered whether Rosenborg was stronger at home or whether they're stronger on the road, because some teams actually are stronger on the road.
So they're definitely, like most teams, they're definitely stronger at home, but they've been pretty good in terms of going away, and at least in Norway. Their game Sunday was a sold-out atmosphere at Ballaranga against former Celtic manager Ronny Deila, and they hung in there. They played well, and they got that late winner. So they do definitely do well from away from home, especially in their last run of games. They do well to keep organized. They do well to not allow a lot of chances to their opponents, and they've been able, like I said, score on set pieces, score on counters. So I think it's definitely a similar way that they're going to play to tonight.
Do you know, just looking at the league, the four that are in the league, Salzburg, Leipzig, Rosenborg, obviously, and Celtic, it's a league that is there to be won. Is that must be the thinking of Rosenborg? If they can actually get their game together, it's a league that they can win.
So that's definitely the outlook that Rosenborg is putting out publicly, but a whole lot of pundits and media and experts in Norway are definitely not as optimistic, to say the least. They're expecting Rosenborg to finish their fourth and maybe get 2 points or 3 points, something like that. Obviously, they've struggled against Celtic the past 2 years, and the two Red Bull clubs just have a lot more resources than both Celtic and Rosenborg. So I think the club is definitely cautiously optimistic, but I would definitely say the move to Norway is not as optimistic.
Isn't that the way of the Norwegian, though?
That's a very good point.
Listen, Matt, thanks for being on tonight. I don't know if you know much about this particular player, but it's just come into us that Hibernian have completed the signing of Miguel Nelum, subject to international clearance. The Dutch left back, who's 27. He signed a 1-year initial deal and joined up with the Hibs squad ahead of Saturday's trip to Dundee. I don't know if you know much about Nelum, if anything.
No, I can't say I'm too familiar. So it'll be interesting to see how if he goes straight into Neil Lennon's side or if he has to work his way into fitness. But no, I can't say I'm too aware.
Okay, well, listen, thanks for being on and talking to us about Celtic Rosenborg tonight, of course, at Celtic Park, and we'll see how that one goes. Thanks very much. That's Matt Ryan, blogger at Backpasses Rule, Cronball and Modern Football, talking to us on the show tonight, and we thank him for doing that and giving us some kind of insight into that match with Celtic. Rosenborg, of course, didn't train at Celtic Park last night. They had to do it at home in Trondheim because of Storm Alley.
It's probably just as well they didn't train last night. It was horrendous, wasn't it?
It was miserable, wasn't it?
There was seagulls landing in my windows, you know, and seaweed as well.
Hang on, there was seagulls landing in your window.
And I'm 15 miles incoast.
Inland. You've got good eyesight then, because I see the pictures you take of the sunset across the Costa Clyde.
We're right on the Clyde, and you know, a cliff overlooking the Firth of Forth, overlooking Dunoon and the hills there, Gyle Hills.
Cliff.
And I tell you,
a cliff.
Yeah, no, sorry, don't talk about it. But it was a difficult
So how was that
night.
subsidence report that you got commissioned anyway?
Right, okay. So, no, it's actually, it was a terrible weather. So, you know, maybe they were better staying where they were, because it's a short flight, isn't it? It's
it's not a long flight at all, but I think you're probably right. But a lot of teams do like to just get a feel of the ground, although Celtic Park on a European night empty does not prepare you for Celtic Park on a European night full.
And I think the other thing is, because they played there, you know, what was it, 3-4 weeks ago, then they know the place, they know the setup, they know what to do, and so that makes a big difference. If you go to a stadium that you've played at before, you've almost familiar with it. And the other thing is, you know, it seems strange, but see, when you go and play in a new stadium, you know, maybe abroad, as you go on and you play, it takes you, I don't know, early part of the game just to acclimatise to where you are. You know, you would think you go on a pitch, it's the same dimensions,
that's interesting,
but you really just have to think about it.
That's interesting you've said that, Davey, because Rangers, towards the end of the first half, were really coming into the game, and it was them that were doing most of the pressing against Villarreal. Still 1-0, of course.
Yep.
But Rangers did look very, very promising. Got a couple of corners that looked quite dangerous, and they did spend a lot more time kind of midway through the half, moving towards the end of the half in the Villarreal half. So Stephen Gerrard will be saying, look, the way we finish that half's the way we want to start the second half, I'm assuming.
You would imagine so, and I think just go and attack them, because as you say, you know, losing 1-0, you know, it's 3 points basically that they've lost, so just go out and attack them. And I would imagine that you know, he would encourage them to go forward. But, you know, going back to this thing about, you know, acclimatising yourself with a stadium and where you are, you know, if someone had said that to me before I actually went and played in different stadia, I'd have thought, it's just a pitch. You go on it, and you know, it's the same dimensions virtually. But honestly, see, when you go to some pitches, you know, it's really, there's the tight in the touch line, maybe the crowd's closer to you, you know, the track, there's a big track or a small track. You actually have to get yourself mentally prepared for that, and that's maybe what happened to Rangers tonight. You know, losing a goal early on, the two defenders maybe just hadn't you know, settled themselves in as well as they might have. So you know, there's I'm sure from your psychological brain that you've got, that there'll be some kind of chemical imbalance early on in the game that that makes that come to fruition.
The other thing is as well, and people don't realise this, that football parks they're not always as flat as they might look.
No.
You know, there's gradients and there's hollows and there's little areas that were, you know, a wee bit, maybe a bump in it or something like that. As much as they try and level them off as much as they possibly can, I think we'd all be surprised just how uneven they can be at times, and things like that can play a big part,
particularly
in it as well.
with a lot of the grounds in Scotland. You know, I know Hibs have flattened out, but it used to be like a slope there. Dens Park, there's a slope still. Tannadice, there's a slope still. So, you know, there's a lot of psychological things goes on in that game. But even if you go to a new club, you know, if the first time I went to Rangers, I'd obviously played there many times, you know, with other teams. But when you go there and you're playing there week in, week out, after about 2 or 3 games, you actually start to, bed into the surroundings. You know where to be. You know the kind of, as you say, the bounce of the ball, how quickly it comes at you. Covering all the things. So there's an education there, and I maybe in this age when there's a lot of emphasis put on the psychological aspects of the game, I just wonder whether that they actually think about that and actually do something about it. Because as you say, the teams are allowed to train at the pitch they're going to play at. But generally what that happens is they go and they just do a warm up. They don't want to put too much into it. So you don't really get a physical aspect of the game or a mental aspect of the game there. And I think at some stage someone will think, let's have a game on here, and actually the team that's setting out against take out your reserve team or your second team and actually play against each other for maybe for 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
How big a blow is the Morelos suspension for Rangers tonight, do you think? Bearing in mind Lafferty's up front as a good option, and he holds the ball up well, Kyle Lafferty. But Morelos seems to kind of get under the skin of defenders.
He certainly does. He certainly does. And, you don't know how if defenders react, against him. But, I think that he is a loss. At one stage, I thought during the transfer window that the body language of Morelos may have seen him leave the club. But I think Steven Gerrard's had a huge impact in his mental presence, and I think that Rangers will get the best out of him, because I don't think that over a season he has contributed over the season, over a number of games. He's always maybe done 2 or 3 games where he's played well, then he's maybe fallen out the game, or he's maybe got upset at someone. But I think what Steven Gerrard has done is get really in his mind and signing that longer term contract. I think that would have given him a bit of settlement in his personal situation, but also, it would allow him to settle down and say, right, I want to play for this club and I'm going to give it his best. So I think the best is yet to come from Morelos at Rangers. Not just what he can do in the park, but the consistency over a number of games. So he is a big loss for them tonight. I don't know if it's just the one game he's out, or he's can sort of playing the next games.
I'm not sure. I think it's one game, but just Lewis could probably tell us whether it's one game or 2 games.
So it's important to get him back.
That he's suspended for. But it's not an ideal situation starting off your first game in the group stages without a key player, and he does have this habit. And I know what a lot of people might turn around and say, but he does have this habit of getting under people's skin as defenders, which is something that I'm sure Steven Gerrard would have relished him having the opportunity to do tonight. Yeah,
there's a balance, obviously, because I think that Steven Gerrard is probably, because he's got inside his head, he's maybe established that balance with him. By all accounts, he respects Steven Gerrard, 100%. So that's hugely important. But also, by all accounts, I think that he's now starting to realise that he cannot. He has to control himself, and he cannot expose himself to potential sending-offs. And I think that will benefit his game, because if you're thinking about how you're going to react when someone tackles you, if you're a defender, the first thing you'll do is go and wind a player up, and I've done it on many occasions.
Especially if he's got that degree of volatility built in.
But that's it. You go and choose your time to have a word in their ear and maybe have a wee late dig in against them, because they'll react. And if they're reacting against you, they're taking their mind off the game. So I think that Steven Gerrard will gradually get that out his play, and I think he'll become a far better player, and I think he'll become the player that all Rangers supporters want him to be.
They haven't kicked off yet in the second half. Just one other thing, maybe Lewis can tell me on this. It might just be that the Twitter feed is busy. Hang on, there's a quick thing. Hang on, it's been sorted. It would seem.
I'm glad.
Is there any reason the live feed is halfway down the Twitter page? Obviously, Lewis has fixed that one, because he just got a reply. Cheers, guys. Great, you do your best, and you put a Twitter feed on so they can watch the show, and then they're never happy. I don't know what the deal is. I really don't. Going back to the situation with Hibs and their new signing, just wondering what your thoughts are on that. It's not somebody I know a great deal about, the 27-year-old that signed this initial 1-year deal. Of course, it is subject to international clearance, but I'm just wondering how Miguel Nelum, I don't know much about it, but I know whenever I mention a name like that, you're as quick as a robber's dog to do as much research on it as you possibly can. I don't know if you've managed to pull anything up on the
Well, I think, one of the things about that I would say, first of all, is that you've obviously got, when you're taking on a player out with the transfer window, he's actually got himself released from his contract and he's maybe not played. So that's the first thing that you have to look at, his match fitness. But he was a free agent, and he was on loan from Sparta Rotterdam from Feyenoord. So he's good clubs. So being at Feyenoord is obviously they have great standards, and he played under Dick Advocaat there. So I don't know whether that's good or bad, but he's certainly that he's a player, a left back. But I think that you just wonder about Hibs. Hibs. Is that an area of the park I think they have to improve?
Well, Neil
Stevenson's always a player that
Neil
I think
Lennon's always he's been quite if you like, vociferous in his criticism about his back four this season. He says they're not defending well, they're not playing. I mean, the good thing is, even if you've got players that are steady players, they have off days, they have bad days, bringing a new player in can just refocus people a wee bit, Davey. You know that better than anybody.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right, Bill, but he's got a bit of class and calibre about him, so that's good, because sometimes when you bring in players that have been out of contract and you're unsure of them, then it becomes almost like a lottery whether you're going to get something out of them. But this guy looks as if he's got a bit of pedigree and is always getting the best out. But going to Hibs now are a team, I think, big crowds, play well, they've got a great urgency about them. I think that they're an attractive club to go to.
Yeah.
Before
it's an easy sell with Lenny, isn't it? Really?
Well, listen, I've just pulled up. He played 127 games for Feyenoord, so having played
not a slouch.
No, 127 games. You don't play 127 games for Feyenoord if you're not a good player. And he's got 2 caps for Netherlands. Albeit it's 213. But sometimes players, they lose their way. They've an early start and they play particularly well, and then they lose their way a wee bit, and they maybe need to get back into the limelight. So certainly I think that obviously Hibs have been speaking to their agent, no doubt, and they are giving him an opportunity, as well as probably getting a player that will fit in well to Scottish football. So I think that all credit to Neil Lennon. I think he's got a great squad there, and he continually looks to improve it. I think defensively, the centre backs, I'm not 100%. I think Effie Ambrose, whilst he's highly rated, he's always a player for me.
There's an opportunity always there with
It was a penalty
Ambrose,
every day of the week for me on Saturday.
Yeah.
For Kilmarnock, Stonewall penalty for me because he was high, but he got away with it.
Just the one game Morelos and Flanagan miss. I forgot about Flanagan getting his marching orders as well.
Yeah.
There you are, the two of them suspended, but just the one game. But you would rather it wasn't. I mean, you would rather they weren't suspended at all, but you'd rather it wasn't the first game in where you have to make a decision about making changes to your team that could be fairly significant. Having said that, Rangers have come out in the second half. They're pressing quite high up the park, and I have to say, they're not sitting back. They're giving as good as they get. And I think Steven Gerrard obviously has told them to. Is that offside?
Well, I think one of the things though, Bill, is like
they've just had a goal disallowed. Villarreal, he was offside. I thought he was offside, but they were very, 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 very slow to blow up and flag for that when they really had to. Alan McGregor had to come out.
Well, I think.
Sorry, it wasn't a goal. It went past the post.
Yeah, but I would think though, Bill, when you actually look at that Rangers, look as you're describing it, it seems as if they're come out in their attack and they're actually trying to go for that goal. I would imagine, given that Villarreal have not had a good start to the season, I think if Rangers went out and got a goal, I think they're very, very capable of getting a second one.
Certainly pressing, Davey. Yeah. I mean, they really are pressing.
Yeah, well, if they get a goal
half.
and they get a bit of confidence, I think that will give them confidence to realise that game's there for the taking. So maybe Rangers are going to break their duck of Spanish visits and go out and maybe get a victory. It'd be a good start for them, because I think that they've got aspirations to go quite far in the competition.
What Stephen Gerrard's saying is they're not there to they're not there to make up the numbers. They're there because he actually believes that they can go further than the group stages and get to the knockout stages. And it'd be great if both teams could do that, Rangers and Celtic. As I say, Rangers certainly come out for the second half looking as if they mean business. They're not hanging back, they're not sitting deep. But there is always the opportunity to get caught on the break when you're chasing that goal.
Well, there is.
A point would be a decent result for Rangers.
But I think, Bill, I do think if Rangers get a goal back, then I think Villarreal will be on the back foot. As I say, by all accounts, there's not a big home support there, so therefore you think that Rangers would then go and maybe not sit back and try and say, well, listen, we've got a point out it, let's go and get the 3 points. I think that's what Stephen Gerrard would be saying to them. And certainly, if confidence drives the Rangers team, then they certainly would have a bit of confidence to take it forward. But one of the things in the Europa League, it's great for Rangers and Celtic to be in it, because it's undervalued in many accounts, but I think being in Europe in any capacity is great. I know Celtic had aspirations to go to the Champions League, and I think when they actually look at it, I think they should have been there, because AEK Athens were thumped 3-0 by Ajax last night. So I don't think they're the team that were good enough to beat Celtic. But Celtic, as you know, there was a lot of things happening for them that weren't right at that time, and I think it couldn't have come at a worse time, because I think they should have, despite what Brendan Rodgers says that they deserve not to be in the Champions League, I think they should have been in the Champions League. That's my own view of it. But I think having Rangers and Celtic in it, it'd be interesting to get Rangers and Celtic in the final, wouldn't it? I wonder where they'd play that one.
Let's move back to the domestic scene and League Two. No stranger to the programme, our old friend Danny Lennon joins us. How are you, Danny?
Good evening, gents. Hi, Bill. Hi, Dave. Enjoying the show. Are you as well?
Aye, we're very well, thank you, young man. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm grand, thank you.
Well, it started already. I'm just wondering how many times before we get to the end of the season Danny Lennon's going to be associated with a job away from Clyde. Listen, you're a hero at Starks Park, obviously. The old Bayern Munich goal always indelibly etched on everybody's mind, Danny. But I believe you've distanced yourself from that particular vacancy.
Well, I'm blushing here, Bill, if you could see my face. When you're bringing back fantastic memories that I thoroughly enjoyed there. And, there has been some speculation about me moving on to some of the clubs with vacancies, like the Rovers or other ones that have been available, and clubs that I've had a good history with. And, let me assure everyone out there that I'm very ambitious to get back to managing in the leagues higher than the fourth tier. However, the chairman that I have here at Clyde Football Club, Norrie Innes, is the best I've ever worked with, and I love the way he does things and the way that he serves the club here, and I like the facilities, and my ambition is 100% to get moving up the leagues, and I certainly believe that we can serve each other's ambitions together. And you want to be watching football in the higher leagues with your club, and I want to be managing there, and I would absolutely love to achieve that with Clyde. And it is a major challenge to achieve, but not impossible. I had good success in the lower leagues with Cowdenbeath, taking them up 2 leagues, and I would love to achieve that with Clyde Football Club.
Danny, you've got off to a decent start. Third in the league at the minute, 4 wins from 6. Missed out in the playoffs last season despite a late surge, and we spoke to you then. Are you happy now that you've got the players required to be challenging from the start and carry it through the full season?
Yeah, I mean, it's a delight to work with every single player that we have in our squad here, Bill. The work rate and the enthusiasm for the games are great. And, 4 wins for 6 is a positive start. But there is certainly so much more to come for this talented group of players. And it's like the old school report card, it's been a decent enough start, but there's room for improvement. And the last couple of weeks have been very pleasing for us. We built upon our 2-1 away win to Annan with a 1-0 victory over Albion Rovers to take us up a place in the league. And, Rovers had a tough start to the season with virtually a completely new team, and we thought that they would come to defend in numbers, and they did that. And, the stats in the game showed that we completely dominated the match, and had not been for some great saves for PJ, their keeper, then in an absence of luck in front of goal, the score could have been much higher. Still, 3 points and a clean sheet, is pleasing for any manager. So every member of your squad will certainly make a contribution this season, and our recent signings and players returning from injury are certainly adding to the already strong competition for starting places. And that's the difficult times that myself and my staff have, is now making sure that we get the right tools for each occasion. And I'm excited about the next upcoming games and the season and ahead of us, as I certainly believe that we'll only get better as the season unfolds. And the hard work in applying all that we have is the key to the success, and we've certainly got a group of players who are keen to do both of those things.
Danny, I'll just ask you, the aspects of full-time and part-time as a manager. Obviously, you're part-time at Clyde, and that's a different animal. You bring the players in after a hard day's work. You have to train them slightly differently, and it's difficult sometimes, I would imagine, to prepare, particularly for midweek games. As I understand that Wraith are still full-time, is the full-time aspect of it something, obviously you want to get back to that, but have you had to adjust your management capabilities and your training aspects to deal with a part-time setup?
Yeah, I mean, you do, and we all know that it can be frustrating at times, Dave, in terms of that you're trying to fit a full week into two nights and a bit, and really making sure, and I believe that we have this with this group of players, that they take that responsibility when they're not with us, that they do that little bit extra within themselves. I think the days of old, the part-time football players being overweight, etc. I think, Scottish football as a whole now, even in pre-season, when players come back close season, they're in such a better shape. They're athletes now, and we certainly have that, but you do have to adapt. You are trying to batter everything in. I've just had a meeting there with the staff that will go over the game plan for Saturday, and we're doing a little bit of analysis and in terms of strengths and weaknesses of where we think that we can get at Elgin, who's had a fantastic start to the season. So it certainly is that, and it's challenging that you're trying to, within 3 hours a week, you're having to work with these players, that you're trying to get them technically, tactically, mentally and physically prepared. And it is a challenge, but as I say, we do have a great group of guys there that do the necessarily work while they're here, but also while they're away from this environment.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a benefit for you that you're at home, because that travel to Elgin, it's quite a trip. And I think one of the things I've seen about the lower leagues is that inevitably you'll be having to go to some of these clubs, that are a big distance, Berwick and Elgin, midweek. Yeah. And that must, for part-time players, it must be difficult. They're sitting in a coach. So it is a different mentality for players and for managers.
Yeah, it is, Dave, and I certainly, I take my hat off to the part-time football players, because I think sometimes the challenge for these guys is even greater than what it is for full-time players, where everything's laid down for them, in the set-up, and that's where everybody wants to be. But for the part-time football players, to put in a day's graft, and having to go down Berwick or Elgin midweek, and look to bring out your best. It's not necessarily the midweek game that causes the problem. The next game in the Saturday, where you've not necessarily got the recovery times, because these guys aren't getting back to, after o'clock in the mornings, and then they're having to get up for another shift. And
there's no ice baths at their work.
Exactly. All this stuff. So I think that's where the full-time environment benefits, the players, that they get the proper recovery, the proper rehab, to cool down and stretch. But part-time players, as I say, we get as close, and there's been big inroads made with the medical staff, to get the best out of that, and to try and stop that recovery. The compression tights right after a game, and putting them on, sleeping them all night. And I'm a big believer, if something helps 1%, then it's worthwhile doing so. And players have got to take that responsibility for that, so they do. So it's a challenge. It's the same for, Elder, Peterhead, or Annans. They've got to go on the road as well. And it's the team that's going to be most consistent throughout the course of the season that deserves to be up there, come the end of May.
Do you know something, like, the whole psychology of being part-time has changed? Because I was part-time with Partick Thistle. And I went there, and I could not believe it. On a Monday, we get hammered in the track for an hour and a half. Tuesday, we get hammered in the gym for an hour and a half. Thursday, we basically did some running and sprints, and then Saturday morning we were in and played a full game for an hour before we actually went and played in the afternoon. We never touched the ball. You're a manager, I know, that's very much ball work with players. Has that become a difficult balance? And when do they get the ball? Because that's the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll be honest, Dave. I'm a big believer that we do everything with the ball. Very seldom will my boys do any running, in terms without it. And we always implement that. We always make sure that the numbers in terms of what we're trying to achieve, that they're getting the right balance and the right fitness levels out it, whether that be endurance, speed, or power, etc. We make sure, and it's a challenge to myself and my staff, to make sure that the distances are the size of the pitches that we're using on a Tuesday night and a Thursday evening are the correct size of what we want to get out. Because come that Thursday, we want them to be nice and sharp, but we don't want them to feeling fatigued. And our players absolutely love, or the impression that we get, they love it. When you hear players saying, "Look, can we get another 5 minutes, Danny," etc., that you're doing something right and that they're enjoying that. And that is something that we strive, Clyde Football Club, to each and every player that we have at our disposal, is to make sure that they come in with a smile on their face, and to make sure that they go out with one, and that it's not a chore ever to come through those doors. We want every single one of these players to come into our care and to help progress them and to fulfil their full potential, but more importantly, for them to take Clyde Football Club to where we want them to be.
Danny, let me ask you a question and go back to something you said earlier on about the chairman being the best chairman you've ever worked with. What makes him such a good chairman, and what's the difference, for you that makes him that good chairman?
I think it's his honesty, his drive. He's very ambitious. He's a very successful man in his own right. And I think where I have the thumbs up there, I've got a chairman that's actually played the game. He actually started off. So he did. He's from a background and a family that had his father, was in the successful Clyde team in the late 50s in the Scottish Cup. So he's a man that knows the game, and I always believe that, the advice and ideas that we perhaps bounce off one another, it's great, and there just seems to be a good total understanding and respect. You know that we've got the same ambition, the same drive, and we feel that we're in an environment here that will allow us, you know, to bring that success. But, you know, it's all very well talking about that on a piece of paper and, you know, on a laptop and, you know, things like that. The proof is that you've got to go out there and do it. The big thing that I take from my chairman is that he's a people's man and he gets the best out of every single one that comes under his care. And not just in a football environment. You know, I think if you look at Clyde Football Club, that we have players or people here that have been challenged in life. And we've not just given them a ball back, we've actually given them a sense of direction to get their life back in track and in the right order. And, you know, that's only a lot of chairmen or a lot of clubs would be frightened from that. Norianis isn't. You know,
it must help as well, Danny, that he's had this long-term association with the club going back through his father and understands, you know, Clyde Football Club, the culture of it and the tradition of it. Because Clyde is a very, you know, it's a very well... It's got a great tradition, and it's got, you know, I remember back in the old days, you know, Harry Hood and people like that playing for Clyde and such like. So, you know, it's a club that's got great tradition, and it's a club that has a lot of history with it.
Definitely, Bill. And, you know, a big thing for me is that when managers, players, you know, coaches come into a football club, you really don't know. I mean, I'm like you know, I remember playing against Clyde in terms when they were up there in the Championship, etc., and you were always in for a difficult challenge, difficult matches. And it's not until you come through the doors and you're in the heart of the football club and what it means to the people of Clyde, you know, the loyal fans that, you know, still travel from Rutherglen and Rutherglen area, you know, to come and support their beloved Clyde Football Club. But it's not until you're in the doors and in the heart of them that you truly understand the history of this football club. And it's an absolute pleasure, you know, before every home game, every Saturday, I'm up doing a question and answer thing with the supporters in the new area lounge. And we always have, you know, a legend player comes back, and it's an absolute pleasure to meet some of these guys and to listen to the fantastic stories and achievements that this football club had. You know, Craig Brown's been down several times, and the success that Craig had with the club was absolutely incredible. And, you know, if I managed to achieve half of that, then I'll have success.
I know the club very well, Danny. I did some work there as commercial director, and as you say, there's a lot of guys about it that, you know, are dyed in the wool, and that rubs off on you, that enthusiasm. You know, the crowds, I think when I was there, the crowds were up about 1,200 because I think they were in the Championship or the old First Division, and looked, you know, do you think with the setup you've got there, and this is probably why you maybe, you know, want to see it out, do you think that you can actually take them back into maybe the Championship and up challenging? Do you think they're a team that can get back to the higher heights that they were at previously?
Yeah, I certainly believe that, Dave. You know, Clyde does offer, you know, the opportunity to write an amazing chapter in our own history. You know, the potential and the capacity to take them up a league or two. You know, it would be an absolutely awesome and a tremendous achievement. For me, they've played in the second tier for too long now, and just over 10 years ago, as you say there, Dave, you know, they're up there in the Championship. So, therefore, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility that it could be achieved again. And as I said earlier, yes, it's a big challenge, but, you know, when the chairman and your staff are all pulling together, you know, magic can certainly happen.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Listen, good luck at Elgin at the weekend, and thanks for coming on and talking to us tonight, Danny.
Great. Keep up the good work, guys.
Cheers, mate.
mate.
Thanks. Danny Lennon, Clyde manager, with us tonight, talking about Clyde's great start to the season. Rangers had pulled one back. It's now 2-1 to Villarreal. One of those things, Davy, where you score a goal, you're at your most vulnerable. And I have to say, it was all a wee bit too easy. They were given a bit too much room. I think Rangers are just... They just gave them a wee bit too much respect, standing off. I'm concerned about the understanding between the centre-backs, between Worrell and Goldson at the minute, just seeing what I'm saying, seeing here. The other thing that I'm kind of bothered about is I'm expecting better from Katic in that situation.
Is Katic on, is he?
Sorry, not Katic, Barisic.
Yeah.
I'm expecting better from him in that situation, and I'm just wondering... whether we saw him at his best when he was playing against Rangers for Osijek, and we focused too much.
Sometimes that happens.
And we focused too much on him going forward rather than his defending. But it's 2-1. Rangers have certainly got the capabilities to pull this game out the fire. Moreno is the scorer for Villarreal. Rangers have got to go for it. They've proved that they can get behind this team and that they can... hang on, it's 1 each, not 2-1.
No, it's 2-1 I've got.
2-1 I've got.
Yep, Marino.
So I don't know who you're watching, but it's definitely 2-1.
It's 2-1. Marino scored in 69 minutes. He was a player that I think would have been a threat to Rangers, but to be honest, Bill, I did think that if Rangers got that equaliser, they would go on and win. But sometimes, as you say, it's within 2 minutes. You can't lose a goal within 2 minutes.
Just going back to Barisic, maybe we focus too much on his ability going forward, a bit like James Tavernier, rather than his defending. Because I think he was found wanting a wee bit there. For that goal, I really do.
Well, it's modern day fullbacks always get forward, as they did in Maddie a long time ago. But
they've got to be able to defend as well.
That's your job. You have to defend first and foremost, as people say. If you can't defend, then there's no sense going forward all the time and leaving gaps. And particularly away from home, I think it's a cautious game. But if you've got two fullbacks that maybe are not good defensively, then in this age, sometimes managers go in the opposition and go and tackle them. They say, right, okay, let's maybe drag them out of position and exploit that. But that's disappointing for Rangers, particularly after getting back in level terms, and it's still to be obviously said whether they can actually get something back.
Villarreal turning the screw a wee bit, Davy. They've upped the pace and they've kind of upped the intensity a bit. And so Rangers, under a wee bit of pressure just now. Celtic team for tonight, let me give you that. Gordon, Lustig, Boyata, Simunovic, Tierney, Brown, and Cham, Forrest, Rogic, McGregor and Edouard. So there you go. Sorry, Benkovic. It's not Simunovic. It's Benkovic.
Well, I thought Simunovic has got a knee injury.
Yeah, it's just been changed on my screen.
Yep.
So again, it's Gordon, Lustig, Boyata, Benkovic, Tierney, Brown, and Cham, Forrest, Rogic, McGregor, and Edouard.
Well, certainly, an interesting team. Because I think one of the things that. A lot of people saying obviously Celtic, should have maybe signed a centre back, to actually complement, because that's the kind of area of the park I think that they've got problems. Yeah. So it'll be interesting how that sets out tonight. But it's at home. Celtic are obviously very good at home, and it's always difficult for teams to come there. And as Matt Ryan said there when we had him on early, he said that there maybe. Rosenborg will go and exploit Celtic at set pieces because they believe that that's where they can actually get them. So that'll be interesting to see how this game goes. But certainly, I think that Celtic, when you look at that team, Boyata, Benkovic, not a player I know a lot about. Bill.
I don't know a great deal about him. I have to be honest with you, Davey.
Well, it's interesting they've left Henry on the bench.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not a player I know a great deal about, but Celtic fans seem to kind of, think he's fairly steady from what I gather. I think Koulibaly's gone off and Middleton's come on. I'm not sure. It's either him or Ajeria, but Ajeria wasn't playing, was he? It's Koulibaly.
Yep.
So, Koulibaly's come off, I think, and Middleton's come on now for Rangers. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Just the one change from the St Mirren game. I thought they would have made more changes, is one of the comments. Well, I don't know.
Well, I think Benkovic is obviously on loan from Leicester, so just a young player, so we'll see how he copes with the atmosphere.
Take a quick break. We will come back. We'll talk more football.
Love music, live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David McKinnon on Rock Sport Radio.
Kyle Lafferty making it Rangers 2 and Villarreal 2, Davey.
Yeah, I said there would be a lot of goals in it, Bill, so it's still there to be won for Rangers, but they have to concentrate, obviously, in the next couple of minutes.
I've just watched Steven Gerrard at the side of the park telling them to concentrate.
Yeah, have to concentrate. You can't come back, from a goal down twice and then, throw it away again. So it's still on there to be won. Maybe Rangers can go and actually win it, but would you settle for a draw at this stage?
I think Steven Gerrard would.
Yeah.
Candace coming off and Ross McCrory coming on. So Rangers, obviously, I suspect, are going to try and play for that point if they can.
Well, I don't know. I still feel that.
Hang on a minute. Wait, this could be 3-2 if he's got support. He has.
Yep.
Oh, side net. Never mind.
Was that for Rangers or the other end?
No, that was Middleton for Rangers.
Well, I tell you that. Then that's positive in the fact that they're taking the game to Villarreal and actually going for a winner, because that'd be a tremendous result.
I'm not sure it was the right option for him, but the boy, I like this boy Middleton. I think he's got a lot of potential.
Well, I think he lifts the whole side, doesn't he?
Villarreal starting to get a wee bit sloppy with the passing as well now.
Well, as I say, Bill, they've had a poor start to the season by their standards.
Yeah.
The crowd will get in their back a wee bit, so I don't think that it's beyond Rangers if they can push on and get the winner, because that would be a tremendous result in the first game of this league, wouldn't it?
It really would.
If they did that.
Yeah, they're bringing on. No, that's poor by Lafferty. I think it was Lafferty. It might have been Middleton. They're bringing on. It's difficult to see on this wee screen. They're bringing on a substitute as well. But as I say, Rangers. They look fairly comfortable. I thought Barisic was just a bit sleepy. He wasn't close enough to the guy when he came back for the 2-1 in favour of Villarreal. I think he had to be closer to the boy to close him down a wee bit.
Well, that's always the thing, as you say, 2 minutes, you don't lose a goal within 2 minutes, but it looks as if they're not going to make that mistake again, and with 10 minutes to go, 12 minutes to go, then it's a big opportunity for Rangers, and I think given this league situation, 2-2, if it was a first leg, would be a wonderful result to take back, obviously, to Ibrox. But
absolutely would.
They don't have that. I would think they should go and try and win it.
But Davey, if you can get points away from home in any European competition and then win your home games, then you're always in with a shout. Let's be honest with you. I don't get this referee. There's been a couple of tackles here where he's given fouls against Rangers, but ones that are either the same, similar, or you see, he's just given a soft free kick. He has no, seriously.
Are you getting carried away?
He's just given a soft free kick to Villarreal after one of the Rangers players was absolutely beat two men and then was hacked down by the third man.
Terrible.
I don't quite understand
these
this.
Referees, and the other game in the section is Rapid Vienna 2, Spartak Moscow 0. I think that's the section, isn't it? I think that Spartak Moscow, Rapid Vienna 2-0 up at home against Spartak Moscow. So Rapid Vienna obviously would go to the top, but
proves my point as well about the Russians. They don't like
travel.
They don't.
No, they don't. They don't. But Spartak also have got a great history. But I think that I'd like to see Rangers go on and try and win this game, because I think it's within their capabilities.
This team are really starting to put a wee bit of pressure on again, though. Rangers are having to defend. They brought a couple of subs on. What I don't want to see is, I don't think Rangers should sit back. I think they still need to stay a fairly decent line in terms of where they position themselves, because if you sit back, you're going to invite shots in from this team.
Well, as I said to you, Bill, before, I think there may be some thoughts from Rangers supporters about the tactics, particularly that Celtic game, because that astounded me, the way that Rangers sat in.
See, Rangers are starting to go deep again.
Yeah, and when they go deep, the opposition are always going to get chances, and I think you can't hold out and say, right, I'm going to hold out for 10, 11, 12 minutes plus extra time or injury time. You really have to go and attack a team, because that's not expected.
Davey, I've never seen many teams, I know it's happened on occasions, but they're few and far between. I've never seen any team hurt you from the halfway line or in their own half. No. On a regular basis. There's the odd goal that gets punted over a keeper that's off his line, but apart from that, keep them in the areas where they can't hurt you.
Well, precisely, but it's just the fact, as you say, the Rangers should they accept just a point? But I think go for it. Why not?
I think you've got to be careful, because this is a difficult one, whether you stick or twist. And it's difficult because I still believe if you can win your home games and take points from your away games, you're in pretty good shape. And so from that point of view, my feeling is possibly that you do try and preserve the point that you've got. But I think you've got to do it in a different way from sitting deep and letting this team overrun you.
Well, certainly, as you say, that from the start of the game, Rangers maybe accepted them on, and they lost an early goal, and it seemed to be in the first half that they basically just sat in far too much. So what they can't do is they can't go and just sit in for the last 10 minutes, because the Villarreal will get chances. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So, as you say, get the ball up the other end of the park, and with a young player on who I think raises the team, Middleton. I think he's a player who really raises the players round about him. I think with him in the team, and maybe still got a couple of chances, but it's interesting, and this is the big thing about, always find when you're playing in games like that away from home, it comes into the last few minutes, and it's basically, do you hold on to what you've got, or do you just try and go and maybe snatch it? But 2-2, not a bad result. You'd probably have taken that from the start, but as I say, I still think that Rangers could go on, and they've got the capabilities on their side to go and
they're getting it. You see, the other thing is as well that when you sit back as deeply as Rangers are now starting to sit back, you're in a situation where everybody's on top of everybody else, so you've got no out ball.
No.
And that's becoming quite apparent at the minute with Rangers. McCrory had to just punt the ball up the park. It's just been punted up the park again to nobody.
Yeah, it becomes a mentality then, Bill, that you're clearing the lines all the time, and you're not actually thinking about it, getting forward. What you really need to do is get up to somebody that can maybe hold up and get a foul and get the team up the park a wee bit. That's the only way that you can get up the park. But I'm just looking at the stats there. 55% possession for Villarreal, 17 shots they've had. I don't know, you've always been watching it, but only 4 in target. Rangers have only had 4 shots and 2 in target.
That's a 50% strike rate.
Yeah, well, it is. But if you're having 17, you want a lot more than 4 being in target.
Looks like Barisic has got a problem, and he could be coming off, maybe. He's up and about now, but he was down there, so I'll keep you in touch. Here's just a wee tweet that's come in as well. Bill, is this final proof that Rangers have improved 100-fold from the team they had last year, other than the glitch at Celtic Park? Going to Spain with any luck, a decent draw is amazing considering the state we were in last season. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, as I say, Bill, I think they've improved tremendously. I think the players they've brought in have raised the whole standard of the club in every position. I do, though, think that sometimes tactically
I think Graham Dorrans has just come on.
Well, that'd be interesting. But I think sometimes tactically, they've not got that 100% confidence that they think they can go and against so-called bigger teams go and actually do something. So this may be something that I think it's always in Steven Gerrard. I think it's a learning curve for him as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether fans will accept that, but he's going into, although he was a player and he was going into these atmospheres as a player and playing, but tactically it's different. On the bench, you have to set your team out, instruct them exactly what their jobs are, and then change it if it's not working.
It's not that as well, Davey. You've got to have implicit faith in the quality of your defenders when you're in a situation whereby you're asking them to defend for a long period of time, and when you're in a match like this. And like you say, 10 or 12 minutes can be a long period in a game, especially when you get another 3 or 4 minutes in injury time as well. So, you've got to kind of know that you've got the quality to do it. My worry is, as I say, that you've not got the out ball when you lie too deeply, because you've got your midfield's on top of you.
Well, that's why you need people on the park that knows how to get their team up the park, Bill, because inevitably if you sit in like that, you bring things on, and as you say, there's not an out ball, so it's almost like getting the opportunity of playing the ball out wide and then maybe getting people into the final third, and then you can get the whole defence, you can get the centre backs and the full backs up to the halfway line, and that surely must be something that Steven Gerrard will be saying on the touchline. He'll be trying to get them up the park. It becomes difficult sometimes when the ball's getting battered into you and there is no out ball, but you really have to, everyone has to have that mentality. Listen, unless we get ourselves up this park, there's a potential that we can lose this. So, I think that the quicker they get up, maybe to get someone up front holding it up. Lafferty's obviously a guy that can do that. Maybe try and draw a foul inside their half, then it means that you're pushing up the park and you can actually get forward and maybe get a chance yourself.
The other thing in the psychology of the game, Davey, if you move further up the park and you've got a team at home like Villarreal just now, they're going to want to try and win this game. There's a really good chance if you get yourself high enough up the park, they'll run offside because they'll be over eager to do what they've got to do.
Yeah, and I think Rangers, I think they've got pace at the back. Goldson for me is not got great pace, but that's why he kind of gives himself a kind of a yard start, and sometimes that becomes difficult if you've got a player in your centre back that's maybe not got the best pace in the world. They tend to sit back in there because they're comfortable at kicking it away, heading it away. But certainly,
let me ask you, who would you have predicted to win, to end up top of this section?
Top of the section? Well,
yeah.
I think it's wide open. It's really wide open.
Right.
I think Vienna are a really good side. Particularly at home, as they're proving tonight against the Russians. But it's wide open for any of these teams to get to top. So I think this is probably the most open section in the whole of all the leagues. Villarreal, they're not the team they were of the Champions League way back when it was Riquelme, I think, was in midfield. I think he was an Argentinian. He was the guy that got that team going, and they were a step above. But I think they've now they've regressed into wherever they've been. Cazorla is a good player, and obviously, but he's 33 now.
Yeah,
had a wonderful few seasons at Arsenal. But he's a player that can maybe raise it. But I'm not hearing a lot about him. You're obviously seeing him, but not hearing a lot about him. But going back to your question, I think that it's wide open, and Rangers have got a great chance to actually progress into the next round.
Okay, let's move on and speak to our final guest tonight, who's sitting quite nicely at the top of League Two. James McDonagh's Edinburgh City, doing extremely well. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good. Listen, I spoke to your chairman 2 seasons ago and was talking to him about the trials and tribulations of being in the SPFL coming up from the Lowland League. And he said, although there was a lot of extra cost to it, there was a lot of extra benefits as well. But the ambition was just to stay in the SPFL. He must be loving you at the minute, James.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I've only been there just under a year, and when I took the job, the first part of that was to try and keep them in the league, and I must be honest, I thought that'll be fairly comfortable and quite easy, and it was far from it. It was very difficult, but we managed to do that, and I think in the summer we've had a number of changes. We've started the season well.
Let me ask you what's changed for Edinburgh City, because it is a good start. There's a long way to go in the league. Are you happy that you've got the strength and depth that you're going to require to get through League 2 this season?
Well, we've certainly improved it on last season in terms of numbers. When you ask about what's improved, probably pretty much everything that we could have improved and changed, from off the pitch, the staff, a number of changes in the playing staff, quite a great number. And in that sense, the recruitment in the summer has been something like 13, 14 players. So at the moment, we've managed to cope with injuries to important players. I mean, our captain's been out, played 1 game in the League Cup and missed everything else. And, it's kind of went unnoticed because of the players that have come in have done so well. So we've started well, and that's all it is at the moment. It's been a great start, and it gives us a chance to kick, hopefully.
What about the influence of having somebody like Jim Jeffries at the club? Has that been a help for you?
Yeah, it's probably a help as a young manager. Jim's pretty much in the background and he's on the board. He doesn't get involved in the training sessions or picking the team, but he has helped in the summer, with working with players and speaking to players. And as a young manager, kind of starting out in his first year, it's good to have that experience to give him a call or speak to him on the phone and just bounce things off, absolutely.
James, David McKinnon here had the pleasure of being the chief executive of Kilmarnock when Jim was the manager, and I don't think there's anybody better to actually guide a young manager, because he's a guy you can trust, which is good, because he's not going to take your job, which is great. Yeah. And it would be very difficult for him to actually take a training session. But the good thing is, you say, you can bounce things off with him and he'll give you an honest reaction. That must be, I know Bill spoke about it briefly, but that must be an incredible opportunity for you as a young manager to go in and have that experience to batter off.
Well, it was probably one of the big things, one of the attractions to the club, David. I mean, when I left Falkirk, it was still quite raw, and Edinburgh City approached me. I always wanted to be a manager. I just wasn't sure when would be the right time, and obviously being from Edinburgh, I thought it was an opportunity to grow something here. And when I spoke to Jim Jeffries and the chairman Jim Brown, they were able to make that attraction to me. And Jim Jeffries, as you say, a lot of young managers go to the job and you maybe get somebody like Jim Jeffries and they're trying to interfere. Jim is far from that. He takes a back seat and he's very much will give me his opinion when I ask him, and I do ask his opinion. Sometimes I don't for a while, and then I do maybe a run of days or a week or so, and it is that you've got someone there that you can trust. As you say, someone that's not wanting to take your job. If he wanted it, he could have had it. And as a young manager, to have that sort of comfort behind you as well as experience, it makes you settle very quickly.
James, let me ask you about the Irn-Bru Cup. You're still in that as well, and I know you want to be in as much chance as you can of winning something, whether it be the league or any cup that you're in. All managers do; they want to win every game. But does it put any extra pressure on you with the fixtures and things like that, still being in a cup at this point?
Well, not really, because we look at the fixture list and the date that it falls on is a weekend anyway, so we wouldn't have a game that weekend, so it's not been a problem for us. I think it's been a season of many firsts for the club in progressing in a cup competition. The club hadn't done that before in the SPFL, so to manage third place group in the League Cup and then get through 2 rounds of the Irn-Bru Cup has been fantastic, and to go so far, we're just going to enjoy a trip to Arbroath, who are also flying in their league. Hopefully we're still challenging for ours at that time, and we've got nothing to lose. Pretty much all season we've got nothing to lose. If we finish 8th place, we've made an improvement. But obviously behind closed doors we want to do better than that. So being in the Cup has been an added bonus. I think if it was to start to interfere with league games, then it would be a different story. But we're just enjoying our journey at the moment.
James, can I ask you, just we had Danny Lennon on earlier, and we were just talking about the difference between managing at full time as opposed to part time. You're obviously at Falkirk under Peter Houston. Is it a big learning curve for you to actually then manage at a part time club?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been the biggest thing for me. I was obviously 7 years at Hibs before that and worked with 7 different managers, and that every period was different. I think 7 years and 7 managers, you're learning from every one of them. You're adapting to everyone, what they like and what they don't like. And then Falkirk was obviously a settled period working with Peter. When I went into part-time football, I must admit I thought that, well, the players will just need to, try and get them to the level that I expect. But I probably had to change in little bits to manage them in different ways, just to try and get the best out of them, rather than just always saying, right, you must come up. You've got to, manage their life away from the game and whilst having your own standards, but be respectful of their jobs and their family life. So that has been a big eye-opener for me, and I think a lot of managers probably who have just went in at full time maybe think that part-time would be easy, and until they've tried it, it's probably a real culture shock for most of them.
And I would imagine, though, going back, if you do well with Edinburgh City, which you've done great, because I remember sitting here last season when the results were coming in, and Edinburgh City, as you say, it was between them and Cowdenbeath, basically who were going into the playoffs to get down, and it was a difficult time, but has it surprised you how quickly it's turned round for you? I mean, obviously you're embracing it while you can, but you're there in credit, I would imagine, rather than just by luck.
Well, yeah, I would like to think so. I mean, it's been quite good for me because we are a small club, so I still feel that we're going under the radar a wee bit. I know maybe top of the league it's hard to be under the radar, but when I took over the team, we struggled to score a goal for a period of time, and then we struggled before we got our first win. So I actually think that back on Christmas, I was very mindful at the time. We were playing Annan away, and we were a goal away from being bottom of the league on Christmas Day. And I was very mindful that being bottom of the league on Christmas Day doesn't really go to the rest of the season. But we managed to recruit well in January and had a good January and February. And as you say, we finished 8 points clear of Cowdenbeath in the end, finished the season quite strongly. So we've really had a good 2018. I'm pretty, obviously happy where we are, but mindful that we could easily go around in 4 or 5 games and not win. It's a tough league, so we need to be ready and equipped and prepare for any eventuality. If we go on a bad run, that's how we respond. And all we've done is had a good start to this season, which a lot of people say lasts a long time. But we have to just keep the standards up and, respectful of everybody that we play against and try and get the best out of the team.
James Hoostie's a good pal of the show, and I speak to Peter regularly. And I really couldn't believe what happened at Falkirk. I really couldn't. But when I spoke to Hoostie pretty much all the time, he was always telling me what a well-run club Falkirk was, and they have money in the bank, and at least they've got that financial security. And now the chief exec comes out today and said, had they not got rid of the youth system, they'd have been in financial straits. That doing that saved the club. A little bit of a contradiction, and I'm just wondering, as far as you knew when you were there with Peter, was that the way that you saw it, that there was always money in the bank?
It's difficult to say. I don't want to say the wrong things or get anybody in trouble, but my time there, we felt we had a great time, in the 3 years. Scottish Cup finalists, second place to Rangers, second place to Hibs. We had some great times and just started the 4th season, unfortunately not so well, and suffered because of it. But I always thought it was a well-run club. I thought everything was going in the right direction, and surprised as anybody else was when the academy was disappeared. But they've obviously got their reasons for that, and they know how to run a club, so you've got to really go with that and respect that. In terms of our own situation, I was just a bit disappointed that never really got a chance maybe to stay a wee bit longer, and I like try not to burn bridges with people and just keep it open and, maybe return one day.
Yeah, and remember, you had that playoff game against Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock looked to be, on the back foot. Obviously, the game at Rugby Park, they came back, but it just shows you how football changes. There you were, just a game away against getting promoted to the Premiership, and now Falkirk, they've lost all games this season, sitting with no points. It's funny how football changes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it yourself a number of times. It's 1 minute you can be flying and, a bad start and something else happens. I mean, I think I actually met you, David, at Hamilton. I came to watch Hamilton and Kilmarnock before the playoffs.
Yep.
And Kilmarnock, they were a team maybe just lacking a bit of confidence, whereas we were on a high. I think we only lost 4 games that season actually in the league. And we actually beat Kilmarnock in the first game at Falkirk.
Yeah, I remember that.
We probably didn't deserve to win the game, to be honest, but we did win it. And then maybe it was the wrong thing to do because they just came out right at the traps at Kilmarnock and blew us away, really, which they had to do to keep themselves in the league. And then you can see where, as you say, maybe a game away from going at the league. And then you look at Kilmarnock last season, what a fantastic job Steve Clarke done. And they kicked on and they're now looking pretty solid. So it's a fine margin in football. You see it every season.
Yeah, and go back to Edinburgh City, obviously with this great start and, flying under the radar. As Jim Jeffries, I know very well, and Jim was telling me it's a great club, a great community club, do a lot for, it's almost like what Falkirk used to be, with all the clubs coming, the players coming through, the young players. Has it opened your eyes that, going to a club like Edinburgh City to see actually how well organised they are behind the scenes?
Yes and no. I mean, my dad actually used to take one of the youth teams at Edinburgh City, so I've known, obviously, about the club from the young players for a long time, and they've got a lot of youth players. It probably just needs brought together a little bit in that sense, the youth in the first team. But in terms of the board, there's a mixture there of guys who have helped the club get through the Lowland League and guys that want to maybe push it on. So there's a good mixture of experience.
It's understand that there's a lot of ex-players there, so that helps that people at board, and it's maybe I can say it, maybe you can't, but it's relevant and it's very a positive thing to have people understand and have played the game at a club. When you look at Falkirk, it just shows you the converse. But whilst it's good having people that know the game, I think they know their boundaries about actually trying to influence it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think if you've got people there, they know when to interfere, when not to interfere. Maybe sometimes you've got people who have not been in the game and they want to put their tuppence
up. Of course. I was being polite about it.
No, I'm lucky in that sense, and I think, to be fair, the board, there's different ways you can back people, I think, and a lot of people see backing as being financially, but in terms of just changes to structure and all sorts of little things, I think the board have been very supportive in that sense. And obviously when you've got guys like Jim Jeffries and Jim Brown there, I think managers come in these days and they're not really managers, they're head coaches or whatever they want to call them, and their work's just done on picking the team and on the training ground. But I've tried to, and have probably changed as much as we can in terms of, even just little things about the under-20s training at the same time as the first team rather than after them, so they've got a relationship and a bond there, and bringing young boys up to train, just all a million little different things that probably people can't see but make a big difference.
I'll very quickly just give you a Jim Jeffries story, right? Jim Jeffries was obviously the manager of Kilmarnock, doing very well. Michael Johnson came in as the chairman, and we played on the Saturday, and we were in the office on the Monday, and the door chapped, and it was Michael came in and he said, "Can I ask you a question, Jim?" And Jim said, "Yep, what is it?" He said, "See when Chris Boyd hits a free kick, do you not think it would be better for someone to kick it to the side so he could change the angle?" So you can imagine what Jim said. He said, listen, the day I listen to someone that's not played the game, that's the day that I'm packing it in. So if he ever says anything to you about interfering, you just tell him that story.
James, an interesting one on Saturday, because you're up against Queen's Partners. Obviously a lot happened with Gus leaving and all the thing over Hampden, so it's an interesting one in as much you're not quite sure how they're going to respond.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've not played them anyway, so it's maybe not too bad that we've not got anything to expect, haven't seen before. But it's great to have, within the first season or your first job in manager, to be able to take your team to Hampden, isn't it? So maybe not many people can say that. So maybe we're just taking them there because it's a league fixture, but we'll be looking forward to going and playing it. And what we're obviously aware of is Scotland have just been playing there, so the pitch will be in top condition.
Well, listen, good luck, and good luck for the rest of the season as well. At some point later on in the season, I dare say we'll catch up with you, but you got off to a cracking start. 5 wins from 6 games. It's a good one, and getting the points in the bank early on, that's what every manager wants, and you've done that so far. So again, good luck. Thanks again for being on with us, James.
No problem, thanks very much.
Cheers, bye-bye. James McDonough, the Edinburgh City manager, with us tonight, talking about a fantastic start for them at the beginning of this season, and well done to James and the team. Celtic in action against Rosenborg now. Rangers already have a result against Villarreal, going behind twice in the game. They came back to level it at 2-2, and Stephen Gerrard will be happy with that, Davy, surely.
Well, I would imagine, Bill, but I think there are obviously lessons for him, and he'll take from that. Maybe a bit defensively how he has to tighten things up. But 2-2. I'm sure if someone had said that before the game, we would have taken it. But I still think that Rangers maybe have had the ability to go and to win that one.
Well, it was an interesting game, and 4 minutes of added time made it a final quarter of an hour, 16 minutes, where Rangers had to weather a wee bit of a storm. As I say, they kind of sat very deep, didn't have a lot of options coming out, but it's a point, and they'll be happy with that. I would be happy. Well, with
your philosophy in how that you win a section is, get a draw away from home and win your home games.
I think if you don't lose points away from home and you win your home games, you're always in with a shout.
I agree with you. And the other thing is Bill, is that, Rangers will be happier with that point rather than Villarreal, given that, that philosophy. Because if you lose a point at home early on, you're in the back foot from the start, isn't it? And it's important in these any tournament that you start on the front foot and actually get something on the board. So,
and let's not forget, you've got a situation where Stephen Gerrard's a young manager. He's never managed at this level.
Learning the game.
He is learning the game, but Rangers haven't. This is nosebleed area for Rangers over the last few years. They've not been at this stage in a European competition for a while. No, so it's new to these players as well.
It is, and I think all credit to the Rangers board. I would say that. Because, there was talk about we're going to throw money at it and we're going to do this, and a lot of people had doubts about it. But they have, and they've put money into it, and Stephen Gerrard, I think, has bought wisely.
All right, Davey, thanks for that. We'll be back tomorrow. Hugh Burns and Paul Hegarty as we look ahead to the weekend fixtures. Good luck to Celtic. Well done, Rangers. Andy Alston and Adam Todd are next. All things motor racing.
Love music, live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David McKinnon on Rock Sport Radio.